video am I just chatting? Whoopsies. Ha! No! Wait. Wait, no. No, it's fine. I fixed it. I forgot to add you. Guys, look! It's my favorite dinosaur! Oh my god. Ain't that crazy? Okay, if I go to this. Okay. Professional streamer, everyone! Woo! Alright, let me do this. Oh, this one. There we go. This is better. Guys, look! Oh my god. May make you bigger. Put you over here. Yeah, woo! Snoop. Is that the Pokemon Dragonfly? That's me. Let's see what we got. Hi Cecil, hi Coffee. Hi Kusu. Look, we got some gamers here, dude. See, this is so awesome because there are people I don't see very often in my chat. This is very nice. Literally like 12 hours different change. We can. Me go first, okay. Hold on, music. Yeah. Okay. Hello. So I am Jett Altair. I am a Dragonfly VTuber. Wee! And I am really cool, and you should follow me. I don't know. Cringe. Thank you, Coffee, for the host. I greatly appreciate it. Kusu with the host, thank you. Yes. If you guys don't know, if you scroll down and hit the host button, it's completely free, and our channels get pushed out to new viewers more often. So it is a free way to promote your favorite streamer. Yep. The more people that host, the easier it is to get pushed out to new viewers. And your name gets to pop up on screen. Yeah. I think it's just all. It's for some people. I think if you streamed before, it pops up. I think it doesn't show up for everyone. Hello, I am friend. Yeah. Old friend. Okay, what? Let me. Are you muted? Hold on. Let's.
Okay. This literally happens every time. I don't. You know OBS better than I do. So, okay, every day I add a microphone source to my screen share, my scene, okay? And every time I press the start streaming button, it disappears. I don't know why. Oh, Cecil, thank you for the follow.
Yeah, Cecil.
Welcome to the Pyro Pack. Yeah, I don't know, because I added it today. Specifically before the stream, because I'm like, I know that source is gonna disappear, so I might as well add it, and it disappeared. I don't know why.
Why is OBS not responding? That's not good. Uh-oh.
Wait, what's happening? We're just having technical difficulties. You're
OBS is not responding.
wow.
What did I do?
We're having so many difficulties. Oh my god. Yeah. So anyway.
I just wanna.
Yeah, you're a VIP. Sorry, it was chat. Yeah. So this is Jett. We went to university together. Oh, why did you play Baka Me Time? Oh my god. Oh, I love Baka Me Time.
Please don't make me relaunch OBS. I really don't want to.
At least you'll be live on my channel.
That's true.
Not a
Okay,
complete way.
maybe you have to just restart OBS.
Yeah, that was a real
OBS just said no thank you.
Yeah, your stream keeps like buffering for me.
Well, OBS decided to not responding and just be held up. So is it okay?
Yeah. We're gonna have so much fun today with all of these issues.
This is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. My alerts are reconnected, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Abandoned. Hold on, coffee. I'm coming back. Hold on. There we go. Fixed.
Yay.
Question mark.
Yeah, Fatis. I'm glad that you have internet again.
Okay, I think we're back.
Okay. What are we doing again?
That's a good question. Let me turn down my mute.
Where are you in the game? Like, did you beat it?
Yeah, I am post Elite 4.
Oh, I have 4 gym badges.
Oh, fun.
Ah!
Did you know that in your trainer card,
Yeah.
if you view your badges, I need to polish mine, but if you press and hold on your badges in handheld, you can actually pop them out and look at them in like a 360 view.
What? Oh, that's so cool.
It's so cool here. Let me see if I can open up. I know I'm gonna like. Come on, I'm trying to like. I took it out of the. Come on, there we go. Now if I put it back in, maybe.
Oh wait, I wasn't watching.
There we go. Okay, look.
Oh.
If you watch my stream, you can kind of pop.
Yeah,
You can kind of pop it out.
That's so cool.
Which is really cool. But you have to like press and then hold on it in handheld.
I'm not gonna. I did polish my badges last night though. Just for
I did them a while ago.
just for this stream. I wanted to look my best.
369 fossil digging sessions. Is that true? Oh, dude, I've dug fossils 370 times. That is insane.
Fossil? Wait, fossils?
I've dug underground over 370 times.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say like you found fossils that many times. That was insane.
I don't think this game tells you how many fossils you found. Maybe it does. Who knows?
I've had 0 fossil digging sessions. I don't think I even finished the tutorial in this game. Fossil stuff.
No.
Which I can do.
228 unique statues. My stream is up, right? Yeah, okay.
Ooh.
Making sure.
So Fetis, you know Fetis, right?
I do.
Yeah.
This is cool.
He lost internet and had to work 4 hours to fix it and then gave up. And then he reorganized his desk and then it magically worked again, which is a mood, but so sad. Okay, do you want to do some trading?
Yeah, we totally can.
So don't you just like press Y in this game for trading?
Yeah, you can just go and do Y straight to it.
Hold on a second, okay? Okay, my game is gonna go bye-bye, because since I moved, I just need to make sure I'm actually connected to the internet. Oopsie.
Oh.
Oopsie-daisy.
See, oopsies, whatever.
Okay, let me just make sure. Okay, yeah, I'm connected to the internet. Okay.
Oh. What if
Okay.
I had a Veilstone? Because I like Veilstone City.
Oh, you want to go to Veilstone?
It does. I'm flying to Veilstone because I like the music.
How's the drug cat feeling about the move? Oh, he loves it here. Already. Like
That's good.
he's very comfortable in the house, so he's walking around like he owns the place. And he likes Pyro Dad a lot, so.
Shout out to Pyro Dad.
Was he lost in the old house? Wasn't like he likes this house better. Because he's been to both before. Okay, so we press Y and then we go to what? The global room?
Mm-hmm.
I think. Never done
Yeah.
this before.
And then you go. Yep. And then you go with a link code.
Okay. Oh, I don't want viewers to know the link.
You can turn it off. We can hide it. It doesn't matter.
No, actually, it'll be fine. We'll only interact with each other. What are we doing? What are we doing?
So you have to go and enter a link code, and we just have to enter the same code, and it will like boot up into
Well, choose
it will
the
just make a
number.
lobby.
I'm watching you. Choose.
Me? There.
Wait. Well, 69, 69, 5802. Okay.
Correct, and we'll go. Lulu!
Yeah, I know you guys see the code. I didn't feel like
Hiding. Hi, Lulu! How are
there's a
you?
Lulu.
Lulu in my chat.
A man of culture? Yeah. 69's best number. Wait, where are you? You're not in my room.
I should be. I guarantee you I'm here.
I don't
This
see
this does happen sometimes. Okay, here. I will leave and come back.
Okay.
Yeah, it happens sometimes where it doesn't completely sync all the way, which is annoying, but
I actually remember the number. 69, 69, 5802.
correct. That's a combination for my luggage.
Don't tell people that.
Oh, no, it's actually my social security number.
Ah, I see how it is.
Even though it's one number short.
Communicating. Please stand by.
Oh, there you are.
Oh.
Hello.
Oh. Yeah, I'm a battleground.
And then go
That's it.
call and then trade. You can come to me and hit A. Oh, it's a Lily. Hello. Hello, it's Lily. Would you like to trade? Yes. Okay, I have so much stuff.
So give me a female Feebas.
I will.
I am trading you egg.
I like egg.
Yeah.
Female is not the blue one, the red one.
You're correct. Hi, Micro Ice. Do you want to say hi to Jett too?
Hello.
I'm
I only have this
glad
one.
that we're doing
Trade.
a collab together. This is gonna be so much fun.
Yes, it's so fun. Did you know I've never traded Pokemon until this game?
Are you serious? Wait, what?
I'm dead ass. I'm serious. I've never traded Pokemon until this game.
Wait. How did you evolve Pokemon then?
I did.
Okay.
Last time I played Platinum was like when it came out,
Oh.
which is when I was in like 4th grade, 5th grade, or something.
Hmm.
I've never touched a mainline since. Now we have an egg chat.
Wait, okay. I have to read this out loud, Jett. We got a fish Pokemon. It eats anything, so it can live in polluted streams and lakes. No one pays any attention to it. That's so sad. I love you, Phoebus.
That's so sad. Where's my lyric?
And then I gotta trade. Oh wait.
Oh,
have a
this
metal
Cecil.
coat? Oh, I have 2 Pokemon to trade, sorry. My bad.
Huh?
I need
Alright.
to evolve Onyx and my Kadabra.
Oh, do I have a metal coat? I have no idea. Hold on, whatever. I should give you something, right?
Yeah. Do you mind if it's a Pokemon that I already have? So like, go to it. I don't have any of those Pokemon. I guess I have Feebas. You can trade me another Feebas. Or a Ponyta.
I have so many things. Do I have a Ponyta?
Yeah, you just.
Where? I don't remember catching one.
Back.
You want my Shaman?
Yeah, it's in there.
Kidding.
It's next to the Pichu.
Huh?
Wait, how do you have
no, you're
a
right.
Shaman?
I got it.
Is that like an after?
Yeah, I rode my bike on the water when caught it.
Wait, what? wait, excuse me? What?
I rode my bike on the water, caught the Shaman.
Is that like a bug?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna wait for the actual event, I think.
Yeah, which is fine. A Dusk Ball.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's a Ponyta. Oh, you know, I came to this house.
What? Onyx is evolving. Whoa, hit B.
Crazy. What'd you just call it?
No, I said, watch me hit B and stop it from evolving.
That would suck. I wonder if you press
I
B.
just trade it back to you and you'll get a Steelix anyway.
No. But if you press B, is the metal coat used or not?
I have no idea. But I did not hit. Hey, Steelix is at my Pokedex now, so I'll take that. Woo!
Okay.
Trade you my spare Manaphy. Cause I was seeing how easy it was to duplicate them, and it was really easy. So now I have 2.
Wait, how do you duplicate?
Basically, like you use like menu storage to open up your Pokemon menu in the middle of a battle, and then you like swap the positions of them, and it like overwrites it.
Okay. Give me my Steelix back. Come on.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, I don't know.
Wait! You have a shiny... Wait.
Gorilla? Yeah, I do. I have 2.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can ride on your bike in the water. Oh, can Jett get a bow? Wait. Can Jett get a bow?
A bow? I want a bow.
You're gonna get a bow.
I like bows. Wait, I want to go to your stream and look at
Wait,
the bow.
I need to find the bow. I still have a bow. I have to create a new image because I got rid of the other bow. Add bow. Prop. Where's my props? Prop. Yay! I got my Steelix, but where are my props? On the props folder. I'm very. Okay, we have a bow. That's not what we want to move. We want to move the bow. I'll make it like a bow tie. There you go. There we go. Jett has a bow now. I hope you're happy.
Look at me! I'm so awesome. Okay, it's good.
Yeah,
I love having them.
Alakazam. Okay, wait. So the Iron Snake Pokemon. It chews its way through boulders with its sturdy jaws. Its eyes can see in the darkness underground. Oh, that one's not fun. It's just boring.
Just
boring. Okay, and I will trade you back your... No.
Oh yeah, I give you your Alakazam.
Trade it. Totally a fair trade, I'd say.
True. Yeah, Jett, you're awesome. Thank you, Lulu. Can I just say that Lulu is like an awesome streamer, and everyone should go follow them. They're awesome.
Yeah.
I love supporting my friends on my stream.
Hmm.
Whee!
But now you're supporting them on my stream as well.
Oh, whoops. Well, you don't mind, right? Whoops. Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I like Lulu too. But I mean, heaven forbid
Me
it was a
too.
streamer I like didn't like and be like,
Yeah.
A 2-for-1 deal. You're right. You're right. Okay. Alakazam's data will be added to the Pokedex. I'm gonna do this every time. The Psy Pokemon. Oh my god, it's the Psy Pokemon. That's not a fat snake. Okay, anyway. Sorry, bad joke. Its highly developed brain is on par with a supercomputer. It can use all forms of psychic abilities, and yet it is a slave to the human race. Huh. Shame. Just a businessman doing business. Okay, I think that's all the trading. And now...
Hey, Gecko. How are you?
Okay. What else can we do in here?
I'd say we can either battle or trade. Those are options.
I don't think the battle would really be fair.
No, my infinite ape is level 70.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna go over well.
Okay, bye bye. Bye bye.
You doing good, Gecko? That's awesome.
Now I gotta
Poggers.
organize my boxes. They're like messed up.
Oh, mine messed up? Mine are always messed up. Mine are just a blob of whatever's.
Mine are very good.
I forgot I had a box of just unknowns.
Oh, I did too. Well, in the other game, not in this one. I was too lazy. I just caught one. And it was an F. And I was like, press F.
Press F.
Wait, where did the...
Oh, coffee for the host. Thank you. Do I have new costumes available?
Oh, I do have a steel box. Okay, I have a level 9 Steelix. That seems...
Hell yeah. Yeah, everyone go follow Pyro Lily. She invented dino nuggets. Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay,
That's so cool.
Sure. Whatever.
If you love dino nugs, you better go.
I love how that's what you chose, and not the fact, like, yeah, she drew the Pokemon avatars. You go with the lie, not the real thing I made. Like, come on.
That's true. Oh yeah, Pyro Lily also did my Pokemon
and
PNG, which is awesome.
And mine. We're matching, but I'm small on your screen.
Yeah.
On my stream, we're not matching. I didn't want to give up Christmas. Where is my water box?
Water box.
There we go. I'll deal with that later. I need to. Should I put Matt in my party, or should I put Pachi?
Pachirichu.
Trusting you.
You shouldn't.
Gecko, thank you for following. Welcome to the Pyro Pack. And
yes,
thank
Gecko.
you for the little lurk fetus. I appreciate it.
Die.
I need Pokemon.
Pokemon.
I also need to blow my nose really badly.
Go blow your nose. Free your sinuses from the evil.
Okay. Oh, everything is dying. Hold on, my model's gonna get freaked out when I blow my nose.
Oh.
Blowing nose ASMR.
Delicious. We love to hear it. Huh.
I can't blow my nose seriously with you around, Jett.
I'm sorry.
Just hopping back
I
to
don't know what
Jett's
to
stream
say.
now, though. Wanted to give a follow. Thank you. Thank you for
Yes.
stopping in a little bit. I know Jett is cooler than me.
Oh my god, don't
know.
say that. You are literally cooler than me. Like, you can do art, and I can't.
Barely.
That's pretty good. What do you mean, barely?
Barely. I don't know. I think
I love this lake.
you can do VFX. And
That's true.
That's cool. So that's art. Therefore,
true.
you're cool.
We're even.
Yeah.
I'm cooler than both of you, so it checks out. Don't worry. Okay,
Wait,
Gecko. I see how it
who
is.
said that?
That was Gecko.
Yeah. If anyone doesn't know, I'm sick right now, so I'm dying. I don't know if it's allergies or cold. I'm not really sure. There's two cool peeps complimenting each other. Wholesome. Yeah, I guess.
Wholesome.
More wholesome than you and Rocco, that's for sure.
Yeah. when Rocco and I stream, it's insane.
Yes. Okay, wait. I'm going to Eternity, and I'm gonna complete the tutorial for the underground, and then we can fool around.
Yeah, it's okay. I should go
That's the
to
wrong
Eternity
town.
also. Were you already accustomed to the Discord ping? Well, because as I was setting up, you had people in here like Kusu, and but she was just Kusu, who was just like spamming Discord ping while I'm like navigating through Discord. So like my guard is like completely up. It's crazy. But you know, I have. Okay, that actually scared me. Wait. No. You aren't supposed to do that.
Okay, for people on my channel, I just Discord ping chat.
Wait, I have fossils to Orbic City.
Oh. Ooh, if I get a fossil today, I'll trade you.
Oh.
Okay. But I think I have to talk to the old guy.
Yes. Fossil into Pokemon. I want the claw fossil. Your guard is up, but where did you get pants protection? What are you talking about?
What?
Lulu, are you okay?
Is Lulu ever okay?
No. Oh, it's an Anorith! Oh! Look at him. It lived in the sea and hunted with its... It's the old shrimp Pokemon. That's so cute.
Like shrimp. I want a new shrimp Pokemon.
I love shrimp. It's one of my favorite seafoods.
I would say it is my favorite.
Hey, Cranados, I already have one of you.
I'm gonna register my Explorer kit.
I don't know, my head is on fire.
What?
Lulu, are you okay?
Let's do
Oh, and Helix fossil.
Oh, I don't want that. Internet. And then
Look at him.
code. And we're gonna do the same one. So 69, 69, 58 is 0.
Are you in Eternity?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I caught Rotom. I caught Rotom last stream or something.
Ooh, nice, nice, nice.
And I thought it was going to be annoying swapping between all the different forms
Yeah.
that he has. But apparently you're given a key item, which is like a catalog. You can just order
that's
the thing,
stupid.
and you can just change it. And I'm like, oh, that's cool though. No, it's cool. So you can just change it whenever you want.
No,
I
I
probably
like
get,
having to work for it.
It's fine. I probably get the great rod also, or the best rod, whatever it's called, the super rod.
Ah, yeah.
Go.
Ah.
The link code. You're so stressed because studying. Oh no.
This is a lot better with handheld mode.
What is? Mining? I 100% agree. I believe in you, Lulu. You got this. Go study. You're gonna do great.
Yeah,
you're gonna do great things in life.
For Lulu that you're already collabing with someone, because then she can actually.
Ooh, I'm gonna change my underground. On my statues. I don't want dragons anymore. What typings do I want?
I wonder.
So typing you want?
I don't know what Pokemon that would be able to catch. I wonder how that works online, because I don't have.
If you go to my secret base and you activate my effect, then you get the bonus as well. So.
But like, if we go into like a cavern together, we see the same Pokemon.
We'll see different Pokemon because because I'll see. Well, because I beat the Elite Four, so I'll get also getting like national Dex Pokemon, but you'll only get Pokemon from where you are. But I can still increase the spawn rates of a certain typing.
No, I just.
Because I have a lot of statues.
Got a Rotom statue.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, legendaries always give the most points. So.
Rotom a legendary?
Yep, there's only one of them.
No, you can breed them.
Can you?
Yeah.
Oh, then maybe he's a mythical. Who knows? I don't know Pokemon. Fairy type? Bug types? Steel types? Oh my god.
You make weird noises, I make weird noises.
Oh, I do have a flag in the statue. I'm trying to figure out what to do though. What's a good typing?
I don't know. I want do dragon.
I had dragon up already. I can do it again. It's fine. Always.
But I can't find anything.
Salamence.
Oh. Okay.
Another second Salamence. Third Salamence. You gotcha over here.
Yeah, will that help me find a Gibble by any chance?
Yes. And I need Jett Altair. I have no smaller ones. What's it? Yeah, Dragonaut +2.
So there's like on my map, there's this like blue things that I talked to.
This is my secret base.
Your secret base? I don't see it.
It's right here. Do you have to make a secret base first before you can see my? It's literally like right here.
Yeah, I see it on your screen. Yeah, I haven't. Let me go up again. I think after.
Maybe you have to place your secret base first.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna dig first though. So come. There I am.
Oh, yes.
I'm moving. There you are.
I'm here. Ping to the wall. Okay. So mining game. Oh, there's a box here. Cool. Oh yes. Alright, there's a third thing in here. I found it. Oh, I dug up everything. Woo, yay! I'm so cool.
Did you?
Okay. Yeah. I got one mysterious shard, which is very, very nice. I need those to get my legendaries.
Wait, is this a fossil?
Yes, it is a fossil.
God, that was my first one.
Oh. Look at it.
Sorry, I'm really slow.
That's fine. Going in the underground is all I used to do, so I don't mind. I know I used to be slow as well.
Yeah, I'm much
But like,
faster with the touchpad.
I literally just spend hours down here
Mm.
in the underground and just go ting. Okay, next. You know, it's like I just zoom and I go.
Okay. Ooh, a Hanchiko.
Oh, there's a good bite right there. Hello.
Okay. I'm gonna go back up. Okay. I'll talk to the. But you
Cool, I'm
have
gonna keep
been
mining.
in someone. You've been in someone else's secret base, right? You can confirm that that's a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, hydrate and slurp.
Oh, I can do. I can do that. No worries. Dragonfly fact. No worries, fam. Did you know that dragonflies and dinosaurs back in the day used to be best friends?
They still are.
They still are. We are living proof of this.
We're both ancient. Wait, are you? Is that your? Are you an ancient dragonfly?
Yes.
I don't remember. Okay. Wait, so
That
then
is a
why are you
fact.
so tiny? You should be giant. You should be like my
Well,
size.
I used to be giant, right? But so as over like the years, the amount of oxygen has, you know, over the millions of years that I've been alive, the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere has
Oh,
decreased,
yeah, I remember
and
that.
so I had to shrink to compensate.
Okay, no, that's fair. I turned more human to compensate.
Happens to the best of us.
Do you? Okay, what's your origin story? I can't remember. If you have one.
Oh, it's literally like, so my wings don't work, right?
Oh.
And now I'm sad, and so I was like, haha, VTuber, make money. That's how I can get food to eat.
Okay.
So in the end, Jett is just an old fart. That's what I'm getting from all that. Pretty much. But it's okay. I am hip with the kids, as they say.
Whose base is this? Why is your secret base in a different position?
What do you mean?
I'm
What
in
do you
your
mean?
secret base and it's in a different
Are you? Is that
place.
my? Oh, that is mine.
It's in
I
a
don't know.
different place.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, if you click it and do turn on.
Pascal!
Yeah, and so now you have dragon type up.
Okay, well, I'm gonna... Since we're homies... can I take here? Yeah. They're right next to each other for me, anyway.
Not on mine's over here on my screen.
Ow!
Good on.
Pascal, no! No claw. Hey, boy.
Yes, Pascal.
No.
Murder.
No. Or if you look at my stream, we're homies, so...
Oh, it's so cool. Look at that.
It's weird that it isn't synced.
Yeah, I wondered why. I want to know, like, when I can enter your secret base.
Play statue. I don't want to.
Maybe if I mine something. It will zoom up quickly. Oh, not normal box. Cool. Oh. Oh. Thank you.
Oh, what?
No, you're mining for me.
Oh, you're not mining on my end. Is it
Well,
only
because
the people who...
it's because you are helping me, so you mine for me, and that's it.
Oh, I thought it would be
It's not vice versa. Both? Me too. A chat out. Hello. I wish you a
spoiling your
secret base.
stream for me. Yeah,
Oh, am I?
there's
I'm sorry. No, sorry. I
God,
will no longer
watching
say the
the
name.
stream and
I'll
you're
will no
saying
longer
it.
say the names of the statues that pop up, so you can be surprised.
Can you see my base now?
No. I might have to go up and relog. Maybe if I go into this and come back out. Oh, it's a
Whoa.
Corsola.
Okay, I'm gonna just place statues, but I'm not gonna turn any effects on.
It's mine. I do not see your base. Oh, you know what? It's actually up over here. It's like a blue diamond, right? Is what my base was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's way over here.
That's so weird. I wonder if it randomizes the location.
Guess
You
so.
don't
It's
have
gonna.
any overlaps?
So it won't be over. I guess that makes sense. Look at that. Oh, it's a lawnmower. That's so cute.
Oh wait, I need to collect channel points. There we go.
Hmm?
Because I'm watching it right now.
That's so awesome.
I should be using my other screen for something. Okay, I'm gonna go up and then like do the
Quests.
the tutorial thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Hooray! I know one of the quests is to assist someone else. So you've got that one done already.
Oh yeah, I think
Yep.
it is.
It's like the last one or something.
Oh yes, quick balls. Gimme.
Gimme. Quick balls are so cool. Actually, my favorite Pokeball.
Quick balls?
They're cool.
Yeah. They're so
More
OP.
Dragonfly facts. Oh my god.
Yeah, I got some pedestals.
Let's see. The Dragonfly fact.
Okay. Now I can go back under.
Did you know that
Down under.
Big Boy Dragon Dragonfly fact? Did you know that the Pokemon? Where is it? Where is he? Do I not have one? So, did you know that Vibrava is similar to a dragonfly?
Yeah, I'm aware. I have eyes. I can look
at
at it. Yeah. Is that
Dragonfly.
your partner Pokemon?
No.
That looks just like you.
It is, yeah. Yeah. This is like me and like my like, mid 2 millions.
Wait, where's your base? Oh, there's your base. I want to make sure that I can turn it on again. Do some shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, shenanigans. I think that's my favorite word. Oh, I have pings over here.
I also have pings over there. I don't know what's in the bottom. I've never been to the bottom right of the underground map. Would like to go there. Alright.
Ooh, thank you. Ooh, fairy!
Fossil, I already have this one. Cringe. Alright, what's in my psychic box?
Wait. Well, I could use that fossil, so if I find another fossil, then we can trade the fossil.
Wow, it's
So also, apparently you find fossils, the more gym badges you have, the more likely it is to find a fossil.
Yes. It's true.
Ooh,
I think you picked up a fossil that I don't have. Oh.
Wait, what'd you say?
I think you have a fossil that I don't have I don't have yet, I think.
Yes, I do,
Maybe
because it's exclusive to this game.
Oh. A yellow shard, I need those.
Oh, there's something that happened at F1. What's F1?
Formula 1.
Oh, hydrate and slurp. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank God those only two items. Good.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention to how many items I have.
Drinking so much water.
Oh, did I just slurp? There we go.
I love that redeem so much. It's so good.
I feel like normal, especially when I was a PNG, I feel like normal hydrating doesn't cut it.
That's fair, actually. Feel that.
Right, dude.
Yes!
Really?
Yeah. It's my favorite redeem of yours.
Not RAR time.
I don't know. What's that one?
It's when I say RAR at the end of a sentence. For like
I think that's
10 minutes.
that's too much, dude. I could
Too much
I have
RAR?
I have a
Okay.
lot of channel points.
How many channel
9,000.
points do you have? 9,000.
I have 9.7k.
Oh, Pelipper. Oh.
Yeah. Spoilers. No.
Go. Yeesh.
Yeah. I'm going. Which are we going, right?
Yeah, let's, I want to see what happens when we go into the cave together. Cavern.
Oh. I see a Gabite. Hello.
Wait, I don't know if I have a Hoot Hoot. Oh, okay, so we can see each other, just not.
But not
the
each other's
same
Pokemon. Yep.
Kind of annoying, but makes sense.
Hello, sir.
Wait,
Lady Goo. Hello. How's it going?
can't tell if I can't tell.
Playing Pokemon.
I have this Pokemon. Where's
In
where's
the top right.
Yeah,
it'll tell
I know,
you.
but like my overlay was blocking it a little bit, so
Oh.
I needed to move it and make sure.
Oh, actually, I already have this Pokemon.
Oh,
I'll
wait,
just run
why
then.
is it so high leveled? What the fuck? Wait.
What level is it?
It's level 33. Why?
What level is your Pokemon?
Level 35. My highest
Yeah,
Pokemon is level
it's
35.
scaled. It scales to your level. Like these Pokemon I'm finding are like 63, like
Oof.
which is awesome because then I leveled up once and it evolves.
I guess
Wasn't
so.
Gabite incredibly strong? You know, Garchomp is awesome. Quick ball. Give me a lantern. Pew. I believe in you.
You know, I think netballs honestly should work on flying type Pokemon. I don't know. Come on, come on, come on.
Oh, it's a Surskit. Surskit.
Oh wait, you can do what now? You have to unlock
What?
surf for that, I assume, right?
Yeah, I'm surfing on the water. Catching everyone gives the XP now. Did it not used to?
No.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't played. Last time I played a mainline Pokemon game was when Platinum came out. So like, I don't know.
Okay,
It's-
wait.
I'm not used to any of the quality of life stuff in any other game.
Quality of life. Okay, I just caught the owl Pokemon. It switches its standing foot so quickly that switch can't be seen. Actually, sometimes it can, fun fact. It cries at the same time every day. Sometimes
Me
in
too.
some of the Pokemon... Yo, yeah, honestly, that's a myth. In some of the animations, you can actually see it. Hi, Dia! How are you doing today? Okay, so I'm gonna put my Monferno out.
Can you see me surfing on the water down here?
Let me check. I'm getting chased.
Bless you.
No, I don't wanna. Oh, yes, I can, I think.
It's
So many
awesome.
Pokemon to avoid.
There's a lot.
I'm
I don't know if I have a Solar.
doing okay. Wait, if it switches its feet, where does the other one go? It's just like, oh, and thank you. No. Oh no, I don't see you surfing, unless you're not surfing anymore.
I'm not surfing anymore. I was.
I need to heal my Pokemon. Yeah, I'm feeling a little sick today. But okay. Gross. So much for seeing any dragon type Pokemon.
you just go to the cave underneath the bridge and
Like the bridge?
there's a bridge somewhere and you go underneath it.
Oh, I need a
The
strength.
biking bridge.
I need strength for that. I don't have strength yet.
Wait.
I just don't
Recover?
feel
Who
like
gave
it.
who gave this Corsola recover?
Oh my god, I just realized you are the milk person Elfie told me about. Milk! is that how Elfie talks about me?
It's so funny.
Is that how she talks about me? Really? Really? Not her waifu, not the girl that she's gonna marry. No, the girl who says MILF wrong. God, I need to have a talk with her.
Dude, this Corsola.
I can phase
Fine, I go
in and out
Venusaur.
of you. Well, you're probably all of them. Okay.
Pyro Lily's inside me?
I'm leaving.
What? No, that's what Sora says in Kingdom Hearts. Like, Kyrie's inside me, and I think it's really fun.
No, I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not a spoiler. It's out of context anyway.
Okay, that's a Gastrodon. That's not a dragon type.
If you keep leaving and re-entering, there'll be new Pokemon will spawn.
Yeah, they keep.
They do. I need more Ultra Balls. I'm out.
Hurry up, I'm bored.
I'm gonna catch a Pokemon. Not to tell you.
I'm gonna leave the cave and try to just dig around for a bit.
Premier Ball. If this Premier Ball doesn't work, I'll just run. I can catch it another time.
And then.
Fine. Heck, I caught it. Lamau.
Lamau.
Let's go.
Yay! I'm proud of you.
Riolo's at 38 now. Trying to evolve him.
Riolu is a friendship evolution. So you want it to walk behind you when you walk above world, and that'll raise its friendship faster.
Oh really? Oh, is Riolu a friendship one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, then why is he in my party? Be gone.
Why?
I'll give it a massage later. I don't know, dude. I thought it was the levels.
The baby Pokemon.
Dude, I caught a Nincada and I leveled it up and I evolved it to a Ninjask, but I didn't have a Pokeball on me, so I didn't get my Shedinja. I was so mad. I was so mad. I'll put something in my party so I can evolve it and get something new for my thing. Doduo. Give a Doduo in my party. Yeah.
I only got a sphere.
Wait, who gets a massage later? Whoever did 2 Dragonfly facts, right? Nah, you can give him a massage if you probably want to have it raise its friendship.
Yep, it's in Veilstone. Lily, back from nearly failing my test. How's your day been? Wow, that's quite an entrance.
Do not fail your tests.
Yeah,
Go
study. Don't be like Lulu, actually study.
Lulu studies.
All I remember is the last... Oh, yeah.
Drink.
Drink? Are you supposed to drink? Did you say drink?
Me?
Yeah.
I did not say drink. I said some. I said noises. Bum bum bum.
Yeah, I'm feeling sick today. But
Oh no.
that's okay.
Have no fear. Dragonfly is here.
I'm hanging out with a bro today.
Hell yeah. Who does follow me on Twitter? Oh, yes. I found a pink Jack Frost VTuber today. Twitter.
Wait, Jack Frost from SMT?
Yes.
Okay, I don't understand. I see a bunch of Pokemon VTubers, If they start making money, you know Nintendo's gonna come for them. You know? Like, what?
Yeah.
Why? Why? Why?
He goes hee ho, and it's
Oh,
awesome.
okay. Reaper, that's fine. Oh, Hee-Ho? Yeah. Yeah,
It's like
Reaper
hee
was
ho,
sick.
I'm.
That's
Yes.
why he did bad on test.
Oh, hello. There's a. You got small spheres. What do you got?
Oh, you
Bullet seed,
know,
rock polish, 2 meters, strength, defog.
I'll get, I think I'll get... Wait, you can't dig your spheres anymore to grow them, right? It's not a thing anymore?
You correct?
That's annoying. I would grow my spheres.
You're running into a wall from. Oh, you're just bad at finding a digging spot.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm not just randomly running into a wall. Have you know? Thank you.
You're welcome. Bro, come on, stop hitting the thingies. Everything was dug up, yay! Oh wait, it doesn't dig in the same spot. No, it does. It does dig in the same spot.
Milk!
I hate that so much.
Why? Why do you hate it?
It's just weird.
It's because I
I've
can't
got
say
another
it right.
dig spot down
Milk!
south.
I'm sorry. God, wait. How am I... What am I missing? Ara, ara.
Oh.
I'm a slave to the channel point, really.
I mean, so am I, but I don't have our as DM.
Your day has been made. I'm glad. Where is... Okay, there's one thing left. Oh, Hannah Pixie, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Am I blind? How am I missing something?
So it's either
Okay.
in like the top, like left side. There, yeah. Ah, that is.
That was annoying. Apparently, according to Reaper, you have to say ara ara too, Jett.
Okay, I'll try. I don't do it very often, so don't expect much. Ara ara.
That was actually pretty
There you
good.
go.
Damn.
Oh, thank you.
Damn.
Damn, thank you. Alright, are you in this one?
I'm here to help.
Alright, cool. I only have 2 items, so I was waiting for you to get in here.
That was better than you. Wow, I think mine was better. Come on. It was good. I think mine was better.
The only way you're gonna hear it, the only time you'll ever hear me do an hour is if I'm on someone else's stream and they have redeem for it. It's the only time.
Oh, that's fair.
Nothing
Thank you
else.
for the lurk, Micro. I appreciate it.
Because I think of it as like a rare commodity. You know, it's like I can't just be dishing them out all the time.
They take like so little effort for me though that I just fine.
That's fair.
I'm not gonna get that one. Oh, collapse.
That's like the worst is when you're hammering and you like on your last hammer, you find a
it.
box and you're like, no.
Yeah, it was luckily only a spear.
A wheel.
You did it again. You spoiled it for me.
Sorry, it's a Burmy. Wow. Sorry, I have one over here. Actually, deal it.
I got it.
I'd like to dig into the wall, please. Thank you.
I hope I find another fossil. Working. Okay.
I hope you find a fossil.
Just then you can have a fire.
Found a fossil.
Seriously?
That's so funny. Yeah, that is. Oh, look at it. It's so cool.
Oh yeah. Ooh, it's gonna be another Anorith.
Oh, I don't need one of those.
What?
I already have one of those.
Well, when I beat the Elite Four, I can trade you for...
Alright. See you. Oh, big voice sphere. Cool. It's a claw fossil.
Wow.
Spoilers,
Never
I'm sorry.
guessed. It said 4.
You found what, 2? No, you found 3. I see it.
I know, I'm so slow.
It's fine. You are allowed to be slow.
Wanna check out this cavern?
Yeah, we can. Meow. Bow, bow.
I haven't unlocked any of them. Okay, it's another Hoot Hoot. I don't want... No!
That's a Golbat.
These Pokemon
Let's see
are
what's
too
here, chat.
aggressive.
Golbat, Caterpie. What else? Anything cool inside here? You got what? A Machop?
I don't
There's a
know.
Mothim, another Golbat.
Mm.
Dude, the Caterpie charging at me is so fun.
Slow.
Barrel, another Mothim, another Crow. Nothing
Ooh,
crazy.
Chingling from...
Oh, jingling.
I need Dragon type thing. Statues to boost. No, no, no. Leave me
I don't know
alone.
if you can.
Leave me alone. Wait, I don't think I have a Swablu.
We'll get the Swablu.
It's not.
There's a
our
document.
Doc?
There's
Documentation?
yeah.
Uncertainty?
Oh.
I don't think the Swablu is in the regional Pokedex, if I remember correctly.
Is it not?
I can check it. Ooh, Pyro grew to level 36. Wait, is Pyro gonna evolve? Wait.
Yeah, Grand Underground Encampus. There is a spreadsheet that tells you what Pokemon you can get where and what kind of availability it is.
Okay.
Let's see if I do Gibite. Oh, Gibble, sorry.
Gibble.
It's only 7 badges.
Oh. At that point, I could just find it in the normal place.
Awful. Well, that's in.
Sucks.
Okay, well this, but it's just the same regardless. Yeah, it is the same regardless.
That's so unfortunate. Although I just got an Infernape, so that's pretty neat, I guess.
Oh, let's go! We love Infernape. That's what it's. That's how it is.
Infernape, like an ape. Like a
Oh,
chimp.
is that a Farfetch'd? Farfetch'd.
It's the flame Pokemon. No! Ah! I pressed the button. Hold on. Yeah,
Crown of Fire is
Swablu.
indicative of its fiery nature.
I gotta read it. And its Crown of Fire is indicative. Oh, fuck you. It is beaten by none in terms of quickness. That's a lie, but okay. Yeah, Swablu
I have been outsped before, for sure.
I want my boxes. Give me my boxes.
Oh, you got Jirachi team.
What?
You've got Jirachi in your team.
Yeah.
Jirachi? Oh.
Of it.
Jirachi? How have you pronounced it?
Jirachi.
Jirachi.
Yeah, what of it?
What of it?
It's because I've played other Pokemon games on the Switch.
I don't have my
No. Leave me alone. Oh wait, let me look at your your party. Ooh. Wait, how do you have a Trico? What?
I caught it.
Okay. That makes sense.
Once you
okay.
once you get the national decks, you can catch all of the starters.
Oh, that's nice actually.
Okay. See, this is me putting Nidorina in my party, forgetting that it's a Moonstone level up and not a level up.
Oh wait, whoa, the walls here look different.
I think it's different regions or something.
I'm digging some more.
Okay, I'll come in a second.
Freaking
I'll stop by rather.
Oh, another fossil. Oh, I can get you your give me a Cranidos, I'll give you Sheldon. Shieldon, whatever it's called. A Sheldon, if you will.
A Sheldon? A Sheldon! Love Sheldon. Oh my god, dude, I have this really funny story about Sheldon. Oh my god. Okay, so
Okay.
I was in drama class in high school, and we had to perform like some sort of like skit or something, right? Whatever. And so, one person was, supposed to be this like nerd geeky person, kind of dealio.
Yeah.
And so they were like, aha, so like the people that are putting on, they're like, I have a good idea, let's, what do they do? They so like they had like the geek person be named Sheldon,
Yeah.
and just kind of like went with that for a while. And then, like, the scale wasn't that good because we had to, like, make it in, like, 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, the drama teacher, like, after they were done, they basically said, like, hey, like, I see what you're going for, this some kind of, like, geek person, but, like, Sheldon doesn't necessarily, like, it's not like the best name you can give for someone to kind of like really like bring it home. Like maybe we should try a better name like Adrian. But what was really funny was this kid's name was Adrian, and it was so funny.
Ah. And is Adrian a geek name? I didn't think it was.
I didn't think it was either, but
Sounds like
just
a cool person name.
But like just the fact is like you want to name someone a geek, how about you just use Adrian? And the guy's like, that's my name, dude. A thunderstone? Yoink. Having some good fossils. I mean, whatever that thing is called.
Box shards.
Yeah, how is there a fourth item in here? Yeah, I don't know who it is. Thunder.
I keep like not paying attention to the count.
Yeah, I like don't, and then I like get upset because I wasn't paying attention.
There's a fourth one?
Literally me. I was like, what? There's no way there's a fourth one, right? And there is, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Nah. Lying.
What Pokemon am I gonna get in the pretty box?
It's gonna be a Pokemon.
Ew, dude. I thought that was a normal box. Oh my god.
Nope. Alright, I have a dig spot right here. Yoink.
There you go. I'm helping you out.
I've got 4.
4 confirmed.
Oh, okay. Heavy stone. Whatever this thing is called. Man, that's a thingy. Yeah, knock down that side. Oh no. Oh. There's a 4th one. don't know what it is. I probably like here or something. Who knows? Crumble, crumble, crumble. More spheres! Yay! I love me some spheres.
More fear.
More fear.
So typically, when I stream, my drink of choice will be in a mason jar. Okay.
Why a mason jar?
Because they have like 4 cups, so then I know I only have to drink 2 in a day, and then I'll get my 8 cups of. That's why.
Was this an icy rock? I don't need these. And a firestone? Oh my gosh.
And a lot of stones.
What
but
is this?
Today I'm drinking out of a Starbucks reusable cup with a straw, and I realized when I drink out of this cup, my model doesn't freak out like it does when I drink out of the mason jar.
Oh really? That's funny.
Yeah. I guess I'm gonna have to switch it up.
I want to see what you get from your box.
I don't even know how many
What you
items.
mine? Yeah, I wasn't looking. Maybe it's 3.
Nope.
It's 4.
Not.
Oh, there it goes. No! Psh.
I won't say it out loud.
Okay. Psh. Oh, yes! Small while.
Oh, wait, I have a thing here.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Mawil's one of my favorite Pokemon.
I love Mawile too.
Oh, Pillsphere. Oh, I found it. Here, I'll help you out over here.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That was a lot.
I'll just demolish that side for you. There you go. I only had two items, so I found them really fast. There you go.
I had 4 apparently. Oh, thank you for the bless you. I am really sneezing a lot. Wait, 5? Oh no, I just did not dig that one out. Okay, we're good.
Wait and find.
Yeah, I didn't think
One
5
right over
was
here.
possible.
I have one over here. Let's go.
I want a 3rd fossil. I'm greedy.
Me too. Oh no. Oh, it's all covered. No, all my items are covered in, like, the triple rocks. It's a 4th one? Oh. Alright, well. I don't know where it is. I'll wait for you. Maybe you'll find it.
I, again, did not check the number.
Well, I'm at 4. I don't know where it is. I'm hoping you'll dig up somewhere and find it for me. Ugh. It's probably here. No, it's probably blue here. Oh, no. Ooh, it was a tink! Just give me your ice bomb.
Pokemon.
Oh, Glaceon. I got an electric one. Electric slide. Ooh.
I got one
That
down
sure
here
is an electric
when
type.
you're ready.
Yes, I'm coming.
Ooh.
I have one up here, but so we'll double back for that one. Oven, yeah. You gotta oven the cold food and out hot eat the food. Box. Cool. Bro, what? This game hates me. Oh. Oh, a revive.
Oh, nice. Oh, I dug up everything on my end.
You got a plate.
Yeah, I got the pixie plate. That's new. That's a new item. That didn't exist before.
Oh. Grass box?
Wait,
Grass
wait, wait.
box?
Does that mean Arceus has a new form?
Uh-huh.
Oh my
Ooh.
god. We can make it pink.
We can make it pink. I have one up here. Did you see what I get from my box?
No, I didn't. Oh, I just
it was
saw
an
it.
Ivysaur.
I did.
Yeah.
It didn't register. Brain for some. Brain's stupid.
Oh, you found my item. Thank you. You're so awesome. You're so poggers. Easy.
Ooh, a poison box.
Poisonous box. Be careful. You might die. Ooh.
Oh, okay. But thank you for your concern.
You're very welcome.
Okay, I dug everything up. Got some shard. Got a prism
Shard.
sphere, and I got the box. What's in the box?
What's in the box?
Poison. All your Pokemon are poison now. Oh, it's just a friend. It's a lad.
Ooh, there he is.
Let's go down here.
There's some good key items. I have 7 mysterious shards.
Going without you.
I need 2 more. Wait for me. I need 2 more shards. Do it.
Exploring.
I'm gonna explore with you. What we got in here? What we got in here?
Thing good for me.
Oh, Oddish?
Oddish.
Natu, Furret, Zigzagoon.
Oh, you know what
have
I
a
might
Zigzagoon.
actually do? I might go back to my base and change it to Ice type. Because I want to see if I can get a Sneasel. Sneasel's another Pokemon.
I can check the list.
Yes. Ah, damn it.
You still Sneasel.
S-N-E-A-S-E-L? I can't spell. I'm a dinosaur.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you need 7 benches for Sneasel.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Stupid. Stupid. Okay. I've been drinking too much liquid. I'll be like right back.
Go for it.
I need to use the little dino's room.
Little Dino's room, no worries.
Yeah, okay. I'll be right back. My model's gonna freak out, guys. Don't worry about it. Don't
Okay.
worry about it.
Excellent. Now it's just me. I control both streams. I'm so cool. Dude, it is 11:20 p.m. at night for me. So I am tired. But we're playing Pokemon. And Pokemon's fun. Hopefully I can catch some cool Pokemon here, and I can level up the ones in my party, and just push them into my Pokédex. So that's something I really, really want to do, is fill out my Pokédex. Because something I've like never done, and like I don't know, I have this motivation to like fill out my entire Pokédex, and it's cool. Voltorb. I have a new Pokemon. However you pronounce Voltorb's cry. Quick ball. Yaga. Boom. 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 I caught it. See, I'm narrating this for people who are in Pyro Lily stream. I just caught a Voltorb. Look at us go. We got a Voltorb, guys. We did it. Alright. Oh, it's a Badoo. Should we just like one-shot this Badoo? I think it'd be funny.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Do I hear
I'm good.
Braum? What? Who is Braum? What?
Well, that is not me. I'm catching Pokemon. I got a Voltorb.
Oh, nice. Did you see the new? I don't know if you're interested in Arceus, Legend of Arceus.
I did not. There was a new trailer or something. A new thingy.
Yeah,
Like,
and new.
dropped.
It's Voltorb.
I have not seen it yet.
See if there are new Pokemon spawned in here. There are, but I still don't. Oh, my egg! My other Mischievous is hatching.
Oh no no.
Now I think I'm gonna put a Swablu in my party. Yeah.
Swablu. I like Swablu.
Mischievous hatched from the egg. This Mischievous is going to my diamond game.
Oh, excellent. It's a big boy. It's a Pelipper.
Ooh, level 33.
Sound he makes.
Are you making weird noise? You know, I can't even.
It's
catch.
what it's Pelipper. That's what his cry is like.
Ah. Okay, wait. I need to download a new sprite. Hold on. Ovipedia.
Oh no.
Swablet. Yeah.
No, Ukiki. Ukiki died outside.
Come on, sprites. Swablet. And then I'm gonna download the Altaria. Altaria, like Altair. Ha 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 ha.
That's me. Jett Altair.
Swablet.
So
And then there we go. Okay. Now there's a Swablu in my party. Any cool Pokemon? There's another Swablu, but I don't want another Swablu.
more Swablu.
Trying to think. Wait, can you send me that spreadsheet? I want to see if there are any Pokemon.
Oh yeah, I can. Just DM it to you then.
You don't know Braum? He's the Ultra Chad, though. I don't know who that is.
The only Braum I know is from school.
There's a Braum at school?
Yeah, Braum from school is really cool. He's
Okay.
actually awesome. Oh, Miltank!
I have Defog,
Oh,
I think.
It's a Mil-
Do I have... I don't have Defog yet.
You
Oh, wait,
you
Strength
just need
is in
access.
the Lost Tower?
Oh yeah, it is.
Wait, how...
Go get it.
How do you... But I've been to the Lost Tower and I didn't get it?
It's at the top.
Yeah. Wait. Hold on, I'm gonna go up for a sec.
Go up.
Hold on, does
Catching,
that
I'm
mean I
catching
can catch
a
a
Miltank.
Gibble?
Go catch a Gibble.
So it says I can't, wait. It's in my thing, it's in my Pokédex, but I can't use it.
So do you have the TMs for it? Strength? Oh no, wait, no. What badge do you have though?
I have the 4 badges. So maybe it's 5, but the thing is oh, wait. Huh. Okay, whatever. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go to Orberg. I'm gonna get those Pokemon made. And
Bro, this Miltank.
from League of Legends, of course. I don't play League. I'm not a toxic gamer.
Cringe. I used to play League years ago. It's been 84 years since I've played League.
I'm not a League gamer. I play Pokemon for God's sake. I play. Oh wait. Oh, I have to go outside. That's annoying. Just give me the Pokemon.
Yeah. Nope. Outside, and then you come back in. He's like, "You're too slow."
Hello, how are you? I saw you right here. You're gone too long. Oh my god.
Over dramatic much?
Yeah. Okay, wait. Is the shield Pokemon. It habitually polishes its face by rubbing it against tree trunks. It is weak to attacks from behind.
Same.
You're weak. That has some strong implications, Jett.
I mean, if you attack from behind, I can't see you. So. It's kind of how it works.
Okay, so apparently I just need to unlock it as a hidden move. I don't actually need to.
That is good.
Okay, so I can have Zubat.
Bum, 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 bum.
I don't think I have defog yet.
No defog. Starting with 6969. What a blast. Oh yeah, that's the code. You gotta start with the double 69.
Purple, Roselia, Shinx. Combi. Oh, Combi! Wait. Ooh. Okay, I need a Combi actually. So let's do, if you have, this is in the caves with the grass biome. I'm gonna try to see if I have, I don't think I have any bug or flying statues.
I have I have so many statues. I can get whatever. I can have whatever type you want. I can get it for you.
Bug. That would be.
Bug? Okay, we can do bug. Ooh!
Back to.
Gecko, did you just call me Jeff? Did you really just call me Jeff instead of Jett?
Wow.
That's awful. Sorry, no, you're fine.
I can't believe you're Jeff now.
I am now Jeff. So he said when I played Slush B-side in first chapter, I got 40 deaths. Oh, and chapter 2 was 69 deaths? That's pretty poggers.
Link. I can't believe I remember this.
I need bug, right?
Yes. Or I think maybe flying would work. Let's do flying instead.
Flying? We can do flying.
Because then I think I can participate too, and then I assume it'll boost it, right?
I guess. Wait, I'm so bad at this. Hold on. Oh yeah, okay. Oh, why is nothing main type flying? It's awful.
Oh, I only have one bug statue. Yeah, so flying is good. Flying will be good. Okay.
Water. That's dragon. So I gotta do this. God, this is really annoying.
Oh wait, I think your secret base moved for me.
Yeah, it do that.
Okay, now we need to find a grass biome.
I can find one for you. This is so awful because there's no like main first typing for flying in this game. Because not many things are pure flying type.
Yeah.
That's just how it be though.
I'm gonna dig for a little.
Go dig. I'm just
like
placing stuff.
Even
Okay,
without
only
the flag stealing, this is still kind of fun. Ooh, I just got a dragon statue.
Ooh, a dragon statue.
A box. I do miss having like actual furniture though, because I was really excited to fill
I do too,
my
actually.
my secret base with like plushies. This is kind of what I wanted to do.
Oh no.
When did Pokemon become Minesweeper? You know what? I don't know. In maybe what, 2007, 2008? That's when it became Minesweeper.
Okay. This is flying. Okay, we're at flying type up. Okay, we do have flying type up now.
Nice. Okay, I have to go to your base though. But what
I didn't buy Ultra Balls. I'm sorry. Gotcha. I'm gonna go buy some balls. Hold on, we'll be back in a second.
Wait, but then if you leave, I can't go to...
I'm coming for a second. Pokemon League! Go!
Keep digging.
I believe in you. You're doing great. Welcome.
Yeah, it's gonna
How
take
much money
a
do
while
I
to
have?
find the Combi, because I need a female one. Not only does the Combi have to spawn, but it has to be female.
I have a female Combi.
But I want to catch my...
Maybe it's a Vespa Queen now.
You can buy balls. Yeah, you can buy Pokeballs.
Oh, wait, and so I do have a Vespa Queen, and I named it Lily.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah.
I caught a female Combi, and I was like, Lily.
Yeah. Oh, this is my normal color scheme. Kind of.
Yeah.
Which is why I wanted in my party.
That's great. That's good, though.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm trying... So, like, the Pokemon... Oh, I think he got the joke, but I want to keep it PG. Yeah, yeah.
Internet.
What's the words? Thought. I had a thought and I lost it. Oh, yeah, only the Pokemon I'm gonna have in my final party, or like want to, or up for being in the final party, are gonna be nicknames. So we got Pyro, Star, and I call him Boy, but it's like a buoy.
Boy. Alright, I'm back in the underground.
Okay, I'm just gonna do this dig thing and then I'll go to your secret base.
Ugh, hiccuped.
It sound like a hiccup.
It was a hiccup. A vault?
Nice.
Dratini! Hi! Give.
Give?
Yeah. Give me your power. I want a Dragonite. You know what is like my favorite fan theory
What?
that I invented? Is that
Hi.
so
I'll give. Yeah.
you know, God, what is it? Like Megas
Yeah.
evolution, and you have to get the Pokemon like in item.
Yeah.
And I was like, the reason why Dragonite doesn't have a Mega is because the item would be called Dragonite Knight,
Yep.
and then they thought that would be too confusing.
Where is your base?
Question. Ultra Ball.
It says you're
Get in the ball.
here, you're in here. There's something in here.
I'll come out and I think yes. Dwatini.
How do I make the map like big?
You go to Y underground map, and it will like go full screen on you.
Oh yeah, wait, are you even underground anymore?
I am. I'm in the water area.
Alright, I'm confused.
Maybe if I come out of this one. Oh, there's a seal. Hello.
I don't see your base anywhere.
You sure?
Cause it shows up on the map, but it doesn't like nothing is.
Are you? That's kind of weird.
Right? It's
My
like,
base is here.
like the
My base
blue.
exists. I know, because I know your base is right down here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's up. It's up. It's up to the right. It's
Yeah.
that blue dot.
Yeah, it's not here. I checked here.
Huh? Are you sure?
Yeah, look at this.
What? Maybe if you go into an area and come back out. Like you can just go down into the water area and jump back out. That's really weird. I don't like that.
You gotta
Oh.
show me where there's a grassy area.
Okay. There's one if you go to the left.
There you go.
There it is.
Ha ha ha, I'm in your secret base.
How dare you? Oh no. My secret base. Look how ugly it is. There's statues everywhere.
There you go.
Now you've got flying type up. It's very difficult to mix and match
Yeah.
the typings.
Okay, show me. Show me.
This way.
Show me
I wanna
the
go straight to the grass. We have to go through a desert first, so I hope you brought your jacket.
What do I need a jacket for?
To protect yourself from the wind. The whoosh. The
Oh,
whooshes.
do I need goggles for that?
Maybe you do.
Well, that's like a Hoenn reference. Wait, I want to see if there are any cool Pokemon. That's a Golbat. It's chasing after me. How about we don't?
You, my first.
No.
Well, one of my first shinies was in Let's Go,
Oh.
and the first shiny I caught, and it was a shiny Golbat.
Interesting. My first shiny that I remember was an X and Y, and I was looking for a Mawile, and I spent so much time trying to look for a Mawile that I caught a shiny Solrock first.
Oh my god! I once found a shiny coughing and it used self-destruct. This is in like Soul Silver or Heart Gold or something.
Oh.
That was very sad. Welcome to the grassy area. Is that a Shuckle? Oh my god!
Oh.
Do
this is
I
gonna
have a
kill
Shuckle?
me, but I don't care.
I think I have a Shuckle yet. I'll catch it. Was that a Pinsir?
Yeah, I got other pins. Let's see. It's probably not gonna catch, but that's okay.
Yeah, Pinsir has a low catch rate, I'm pretty sure.
We're gonna try it. 1, 2,
2,
3.
3. Catch.
Okay, that was easy.
Alright, see if we catch the Shuckle.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Ooh,
Catch.
wow. We leveled up instead of mischievous. No nickname.
Oh, Kiki's level 70. Let's go.
Nice. I need.
Go.
Oh, I like the combi.
That's a
Okay,
skunk.
there's a combi, but I think it might be male. Yeah, it's male. I don't care about you.
Is that a Flaffy?
Oh my god, you got a flat. Damn. Flaffies are so
It's a
cute.
Flaffy. Look at it. Look at it.
Wait, I don't have your stream up. Hold on. Let me look at it. Very cute.
Flaffy. Catch.
There you go. I just one-shot the combi.
You can know if it's a male or female based on.
Yeah, I don't know if
Was like
it's in the overworld though.
It's. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's why.
Not in the world, unfortunately. I don't think so. I
'Cause
doubt
know
it.
shinies you can't tell in the overworld anymore.
Nope, you cannot, which is sad. A Wimple. Go catch it. It's a Cacturn. So that's like I think this part is super fun for me, just like running around the underground and being like, oh, new Pokemon, catch, new Pokemon, catch, new Pokemon, catch.
That was fun. Okay, Reaper, thank you for coming.
It's a ladybug.
Wait, I'm gonna leave and then come back. Also, milk.
Ugh.
Ara. An Absol.
Ooh,
What?
I love it. I don't think I have a ladybug yet.
If you organized your boxes, it would be a lot easier to tell.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll just run into it, and if I see the icon, I'll move on.
You're supposed to do the Ara too, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Ada.
Oh, and
There
we
you
got
go.
another one. Ara.
Another one? Ada.
I think yours was better than mine that time.
Thank you.
What if I do Flame Wheel? I hope it wouldn't faint if I did Flame Wheel. Be sad.
I remember in this, what is it? In, the first time I was playing Platinum, I had an Absol, and I was like, Absol's so cool. And I would do the same move combination every single time. I'd do Swords Dance into Dark Pulse, and it was so powerful.
Ah. Okay, I need to add a bow to my model. Hold on.
Oh. And if you're in, yeah. The smart viewers in the room will notice that Swords Dance increases attack, and Dark Pulse is a special move. A C-Dot. I think I have you already.
There we go. Okay, Lily, don't feel jealous. At least when you're not doing collabs, you do the best Ada. I never said I was jealous. I know when I'm not good. Oh, excuse me.
I'm hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please don't fade my Pachirisu. Thank you.
C-Dot. Is that a Poliwhirl?
Oh, rip.
No. It's a Poliwhirl, not a Poliwrath. You can tell by the direction of the dial, the spiral.
You can also tell because they're different Pokemon.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Hydrate. Thank you, cheese. I'll hydrate.
I'll hydrate too.
The Absol's giving you trouble.
It is.
Oh, look at that dragonfly go. Meow.
What if we did a
What on?
basketball?
Have you seen my new dragonfly redeem? It'll just be a dragonfly will fly across the screen.
I haven't seen it yet. Wait.
Oh, it's so cool.
Oh my god. Why are you like this, Absol? I just want to be your friend.
Oh, Discord paying Lulu. Go study.
Okay, wait. I have 1K. Ah! Can't. Where is it go? Dragonfly.
A Tutwig!
I'm not doing this so hot.
Alright. What's up? Oh, this is Absol giving you trouble.
Yeah, my Pokemon aren't high enough level and none of them know False Swipe. Aww.
I don't believe in false swipe.
Why? False Swipe supremacy.
Nah, I just don't use it. No particular reason, I just don't. I have a Turtwig now. Let's go.
Lily is gonna sacrifice itself for the catching this Absol.
Great, good.
I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
Please.
More Discord pics.
You didn't even read the Pokedex entry. Oh my god.
It's a Turtwig.
Yeah. And?
I can. Oh, I thought you'd go into the Pokedex. I can just be like, made from soil. There you go. Shell on its back hardens when it drinks water. It lives along lakes. Discord ping is my nature cry. Okay, Lulu. Whatever you say.
Now we heal Pyro.
I should exit and re-enter and see if I can find the other grass starters. Which are... I'm missing...
Chikorita?
What am I missing? Chikorita. Yep.
I think that would be it. Alright.
Oh, yes! The Nincada. Okay,
Oh,
cool.
a Scyther. Do you have a Scyther already?
I do have a Scyther.
Alright, desk block.
Shout out to Nincada. I can now get my Shedinja. I actually have Pokeballs in my inventory now. And that Absol's giving you trouble, huh?
Yeah.
So I have Venusaur on my team, so I can do Sleep Powder.
Nice.
This is very useful.
Oh, come on! Oh, I'm gonna become a toxic gamer.
Spoilers.
Don't spoiler me, you know, I'm gonna use a timer ball.
Oh.
I think it's been over 10 turns. No! Really? Really?
Another Turtwig.
Really?
Is it shiny? Should I check? Just imagine walking through a forest and there's just a deer making Discord ping noises. I think that would be absolutely terrifying.
This Absol doesn't want to be my friend.
He edgy.
I want Absol to be my friend.
I believe in you. One day.
Oh, stop using Night Slash! Bad. Bad friend.
Bad friend. Stop using moves to try to kill me. It's a Nuzleaf. I already have one of you.
I'm still in that battle. I'm here for a combi!
Who? Oh my, Lulu, you gotta stop. Another Absol. Maybe I'll check it. I'll check if the Absol is shiny.
Tropius.
It's not shiny.
I really like Tropius.
Sad. Tropius is cool too. Yes, Lulu, do it more. No! Stop. No more Discord pings. Lulu, how do you have so many points to spend on Discord pings? That's what I want to know. Feel like, I mean, I guess it is only 100 points. I can do it 17 more times. You have 1.7k points. I see. It is a lot.
Okay, let's try this again.
No,
Really?
go back, go away, be gone.
Interesting.
So Nidoran? Yeah? Not the one I want.
Yeah, it's an Nidoran. What about a Great
I
Ball?
don't think I have a Rattata yet.
Really?
I've read a Kate and not a Rattata.
Oh, I only... Okay, it's so close!
I believe in you. No!
God, oh my god.
Yeah, I don't have a Rattata yet. Quick ball. Boom! Sucks that these things are kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Quick balls. They're 1,000 each.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to buy them as soon as you get to Pastoria.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not that bad.
I might have to, like, leave and, like, stock up on items and heal my Pokemon.
That's fine.
It's because this Absol...
My Trico's evolving, though. Whee!
Oh, nice! Stop! Ah, bah, 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 bah. Just use taunt again, please.
One day, you'll get it. I believe in you.
Okay, use taunt. Let's try. I'm surprised
It's a
the
guava.
timer balls aren't working. You'd think they would after all of this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not even close. It doesn't even shake once.
That's terrifying.
But for the quick balls, it does for some. So I wonder if timer balls are maybe broken.
They shouldn't be.
Oh no. Why are you like this, Absol? Wish I had an Ultra Ball.
Look how these trophies just kind of just drift through the air. That's a Poliwag.
Yes.
Chikorita! I almost didn't see you. You're so tiny. That's all the grass starters once I catch
Oh my
this
god.
one.
A critical. Ah.
Oh no! How about you get a critical catch?
That would be wonderful. I'm also running
Me
out
too.
of potions.
Oh. Oh, it broke free. That's not very poggers of you. Safeguard. I don't know what that is.
I think it protects it from critical hits.
Oh.
I will catch this Absol if it's the last thing I do.
Well, welcome to Jett doesn't know his typings.
What'd you do? Oh.
I used U-turn.
Unfortunate. Hopefully you can catch one soon.
Wait, bug beats grass? Oh, because do bugs eat grass?
Yeah, they eat leaves.
Oh, true. See, that's like the only way I remember like typings if I like make up like stupid like analogies in my head like that.
The reason Dark, Ghost, and Bug are super effective against Psychic type is because they're common fears.
Oh, true. Interesting. Oh, is that a Spinarak? No,
What is it?
Aridos.
Keeps crit. Stop crit. Oh, no! Sorry.
There's also a thing, what is it? Like, fighting beats dark? Because
Yeah.
in Japanese, it's like dark type is like evil type. So you like fighting evil or something? I forget.
Oh, it's evil type? Oh.
I think so. It's something like that, I'm like pretty sure.
Hmm.
Because that sounds familiar. I remember someone telling me this one.
I have ran out of potions. Rude.
Just chuck balls until you catch it.
3. Are you serious? Well, at least I caught it.
Let's go! Another Discord ping. You gotta go to bed. Goodbye, Lulu. Go to bed. Get that
Bye,
sleep. You deserve
Lulu.
it.
Give Absol a nickname. Send to the box. I never want to see you again. Actually, Absol, you know what? I say that. Absol would be really useful for the next.
I love Apple. What's the next gym?
Ghost.
I guess you could also do water. Also, you can do them both at the same time.
Water? I already did the water gym.
Oh, did you? I don't know.
I have 4 badges. I told you I have 4 badges.
Is that how badges work?
What do you mean? Is that how badges?
Oh.
Pachirisu is going away now.
To be fair, I did the ghost before I did water. That's just me though.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Oh, I'll go by
Well,
the order
I had a Alakazam, and I was like, ha ha ha, Shadow Ball. So I was like,
Go to rock. Organize. I'm not you.
my boxes are organized.
Mm-hmm.
They're organized in via when I caught them.
Okay. Oh, the Pokemon.
And this is all my
the
unknown.
fossil Pokemon are level 1, not level 20.
Oh yeah, they spawn at level 1.
Catching a lot of good.
I need to find a Chikorita again now. So I didn't catch it the first time. I think I have a Poliwag. Wait, how do you get Politoad?
King Rock.
King Rock on a Poliwhirl? Oh, I see. I don't have any King Rocks.
Well, get good and get one.
Oh, I am sorry. Let me go. I'll be right on that. 100%.
I'd like to download this image. Save image. We're gonna call that Absol, because that's what it is.
Because that's what it is.
Bye bye Pachiri suit. Absol.
I have trouble walking on its newly grown feet.
Yeah.
Me too. I also had trouble walking on my new grown feet.
Wait, what happened?
Probably Wag has trouble walking on its new grown feet.
Okay.
A Combi.
I'll watch you get a female one.
Oh, let's check.
Don't check it, make me sad.
No, it's a male. It's fairly fine.
Okay. Alright, I'm gonna.
You said don't check. I was already in the fight, and I was like, oh well.
Oh well, I'm sorry. It's like
Yeah,
delayed
fine.
for me.
Play the.
I did that in Milk Redeem. Yeah, I think I.
Unless you didn't.
No, I did because you made a noise.
That was like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know it was. It was redeemed 5 minutes.
Oh,
ago.
you're just making sure. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think I have any mods on duty right now, because the only mod that's the only one. Although Elfie should be here. I don't know what
Elfie
she's
is
doing.
awake. Miku game.
Probably, but that's one of the reasons I made her a mod so she could be here during my early streams, because the other mods can't.
I can be that doing your early stream.
Yeah, I know, but we're streaming right now. You're also streaming.
This is true. I don't have any mods here. Well, I mean, Lulu just went to bed, so. Any mods in chat? Mod check? Literally, no one. That's fine though. Oh, a Hoppip. I don't have a Hoppip yet. Yeet. I love just catching Pokemon. It's so fun.
We're gonna stock up on some super potions as well.
Ew. On the hunt for a chikorita. Looking for a chikorita. A Sunkern! Hi!
No!
You're so tiny!
I'm stupid.
Are you? Why?
You're pressing the wrong buttons.
Oh, I do that all. There's too many nested menus in this game.
Yeah.
And it's not obvious when you are allowed to press A or not.
Yeah.
It's not your fault. Is that a critical catch? Ooh.
Yeah, critical catches aren't guaranteed, they just increase the rate. Fun fact.
Oh, really?
You can get a critical catch and not catch it.
That's so stupid.
Oh, am I gonna have to go to your base again?
Yep.
Wait, where is your base? Okay.
Another Absol.
Make sure mine's okay. Does it boost it the more statues you have, or no?
So the way it works is there's like 3 different tiers. So like depending on the types of the typings of the statues, it adds points to like a value, and once that value hits a certain point, then it will increase like the typings. Mm-hmm. So like different Pokemon have different stats attached to them. So like fully evolved Pokemon will give you more on the stats, and so like the like if it's like the main stat will give you X number of points, and the substat will give you half as many points or something. And shining statues give you twice as many points, and legendary statues give you triple the amount of points. So
I'm gonna do a little digging.
I should also do more diggy. It's diggy's fun. Water.
Just in case I get it.
Oh, fancy. Question. Question for you. Do you have a favorite flower?
Yeah. You'll
Oh, do you?
never guess what it is.
Is it a lily?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa,
Yes,
it's
it is.
crazy. You know, to be fair, I like literally wasn't thinking about lilies. I was just like, I want to ask you what your favorite thing is. Flower.
Really funny.
I just
Yeah, it's like, I wonder. Oh, I gotta finish my
Great.
my drink.
Do you have a favorite cuisine?
Like culture? Like
Like
food culture? Or just like a favorite food? When you say cuisine,
Yeah.
I think of like a place, like a place's cuisine, you know?
Yeah, yeah, like a type of.
Japanese food.
Typical.
Typical. I really like sticky rice. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sticky rice. That's the only. It's so good. I love all Japanese food because of sticky rice.
No, it's not the only reason, but like a lot of meal. Oh, is this another fossil?
Oh, it's. I think there's like too many. There's too many good foods for me to pick like a favorite cuisine. You know.
I don't know. I mean.
Because Mexican food has like guacamole, and I was like, damn.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
And like I also really like escargot from the good old
Ew.
French.
Ew.
What do you mean ew?
It's texturally, it's ew.
That you know what
come
that
on,
that
you
that is
have
fair.
a good bite. Oh, this is annoying.
I also have more than 7 gym
I
badges.
know, I know.
You have strength.
No, but I.
Do you have to beat Fantina for strength? Surely not.
I think so.
No way. I mean, I did beat Fantina first.
Oh, that's a Badoo. I don't care about you. I would like a I'm not seeing many flying type Pokemon. I don't know if I turned your base on correctly.
Zahoodoo. If you hit Y and go to your underground map, it will tell you what statue effect you have in the bottom right corner.
Yeah, it'd be great if your hand wasn't blocking it though. Yeah, it's up flying.
Okay. I'm sorry for blocking everything.
Oh, you're only
I'm sorry,
blocking
I'm
that
in the
bit.
way and such a nuisance.
Yeah, bit good.
I'm only 7 inches tall, you know? I'm a tiny boy.
And yet you're bigger than me.
Yeah, I need
On your screen.
to embellish myself a little bit. It's amazing.
And I'm not really
A
spying.
cherubi?
I already have one.
Oh. I don't know if I have one.
Trying to level up my Pokemon, so catching easier. So is it based on the level in your party or based on the gym badges?
That is a good question. I don't know. Why? Maybe it's level. I mean, it's definitely to level because I've been in the underground a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's level. It could be highest level of your in your party.
Maybe. I need to catch it.
It's a female.
Yeah.
But if I hit like every single tink in this entire wall. That was so awful.
That's unfortunate. Wait.
to catch it?
Yeah. What should I name it?
I don't know.
Name it. Mean look. I don't want to learn mean look. That's mean.
Mean looks scary.
Yeah, we don't.
Was that a Cascoon? That's funny. It just hops in place.
Okay. It's the tiny bee Pokemon. They collect and deliver honey to their colony. At night, they cluster to form a beehive and sleep. Kinda cute. Yes, what
That's
do I
cute.
name her? Wait, I'm gonna name her BG. BG, yeah. She is going into my party, cause
I don't think I have a Nidorino.
okay, wait, I would like... Oh, getting attacked by a Machop.
Machop. Machop your face.
That's rude.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it.
Mm-hmm. Combi. There we go. I don't want to battle
Suck
this. I don't really want to battle this. Okay, wait. So I caught the combi.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see what other Pokemon. Okay, let's see. Azalea, no. Oh, wait, only Purugly, not Glammeow?
That's funny. You can find Glameow on the surface or somewhere.
Yeah, I know, I'm not there yet though.
Nidorino!
Okay, let's see.
In the Moonstone.
What about here? Bronzer, Scorpy. I think wait, I don't know if I have a... Let's sort by name.
There's Absol's walking in place. It's kind of funny.
Scorpy. Oh no, I don't have a Scorpy. So I'm gonna change it. Where's our base? I'm gonna change it to maybe bug or poison.
Am I changing mine?
Yeah, change either bug. And wait,
Poison, you'll get like only Scorpions. Poison is the easiest way to get Scorpion. That's like all you'll find. I know, because I changed it to poison once.
Good.
Okay, I'll change to poison then. No worries.
And it's in the cave. It's the canyon biome.
Alright, poison.
Put away.
Actually, I want to move. Go.
Away. Put it away. Poison.
There's a button to clear all the statues. Go back. Go back.
Okay.
My gym?
Your secret base. Because I saw your little icon and I was like, oh, wait, is it in its normal spot? No, it's not. I'm gonna dig before going to your base.
Do it.
What's the canyon biome?
It's the not desert one.
That's very clear.
I don't know which ones which ones cans are. I have poison now. Let's play a game called Which Ones Are Canyons? Autograph map. Oh, I think okay though. Oh, they're way over there. We gotta take a trip.
Oh, damn. Let me go to your,
Unless, because these aren't canyons, right? Oh no, wait, no, these are these are canyons. I'm thinking of desert. These ones are the canyons. They're that close to us, so I'd go the canyons.
That is... Are you sure? Because that one kind of looked like a desert.
No, there's rocks everywhere. There's ones that are like way over all the way to the right, and those are deserts. Dig it. Where are you? Oh, you're coming. So slow.
Digging.
Dig faster.
Confirmed. Right at this
3
time.
confirmed. Oh, 5's done.
Ooh, I think it's like my first like pretty like special box. Like not the normal one.
No, sunstone! No!
Unfortunate.
That's so sad.
Ooh,
those
see
still
what I
fit.
get. God, do I need to pee? I need to go to the bathroom again. This is too much liquid. It's a gorgeous stone box. Wait.
Hi Pluto, how's it going?
Oh, I
Gamer.
got a Jade Mawile statue.
Let's go! Jade Mawile?
Yeah.
Hi Pluto, how are you? How's your day? Good morning.
Morning. Those are Badoo. Those are not Scorpy. Badoo, that's a Zubat. No, 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 no. No, no, no. That's Psyduck. Okay. Sure.
This can't be Canyon, is it?
Psyduck is my favorite poison type.
I'm seeing Fighting, Dark, I see Golbat, and Machop. There's no... Okay, wait, hold on. Maybe this isn't Canyon. I'm gonna go to Cerebi.
Cerebi, good. No, no, no! I mean, poison types are definitely spawning. That looks pretty neat. Oh yeah, of course you would like a Psyduck.
Just because they're spawning. They have a list of the regions, don't they? How do I say go? Think.
Yeah, I think this might be.
Oh, I guess this is. Hold on. Hideaways. We want. What do you want? Which one do we want?
We want Canyon.
Is that Rocky Cave?
Oh God! Wait, hold on. My phone is like low on battery for some reason. It's because we're streaming. Where's my charger?
Okay, I see. We want the Rocky Cave. Okay. I took you to the wrong spot. Me apologize. Doro!
Hold on.
Hi, Doro.
I don't know where
How
my
are you?
charger is. Fudge cake.
Go find your charger. I'm gonna say hi to Doro. Doro, how did your stream go? How was the Genshins?
My model's gonna be all freaked out while I look for this. Also, hi Doro. How are you doing? How you doing? Oh, that's my MacBook charger. Ah! Okay. I'm gonna be right back again. I might have to go to another room to find it. But I need my my iPhone for my face tracking, so it's kind of important. I'll be right back. Okay. Jett? Hello? Jett? Jett? Did something happen? Someone in chat, make sure I'm still live. Yeah, I am. Wait, why? Where's Jett? Why is he quiet now? Jett, speak. I'm so confused. I'm gonna DM him. I don't know where Jett is. I need to go. I need him to entertain my chat. Hello? Jett. Ah! Wait, what is happening? What is happening? Did you get done? What? I don't know. I don't know, but I'm not showing up on his screen. And he's not showing up on mine. You guys can hear me though, right? Right, we're all good. I really need to pee. I really need to go to the bathroom. I need to make sure he entertains my chat. Oh, Discord is being dumb. Okay. Okay, alright, that's fair. No Jett though. Okay. Good. I'm gonna just do a BRB bathroom. And hopefully Jett comes back. BRB bath. Let me make that a better color. That color. Okay. Alright, I'll be right back. Sorry about that, guys. And apparently Jett's Discord is being stupid right now. So, he's gonna come back. Okay, I'll be right back.
What? What? Okay, I think we're back. Saz Jett, am I back? I think I'm here. Whoa, I'm here. Hello. Jett back. Poggers, I fixed it. Let's go. I'll be looking while eating breakfast, doing something odd. I hope you look at Discord issue. I just fixed it, Kamini, but thank you. What are you eating for breakfast? Breakfast is delicious. Breakfast is an important meal, even though I skip it all the time. Pyro told you to entertain us, by the way. Okay, cool. Okay. How do I entertain both chats at the same time? Let me think. Okay. Let's see. What does Kamini have for breakfast? An omelet with yogurt and granola? That sounds delicious. I've been finding I found this new breakfast that I like to eat a lot. So it's Greek yogurt, and then I add some honey, and then some like shaved almonds. And it is probably one of like the best breakfast foods I've had in like a long time. It's super, super yummy. And it's yummy, it's healthy, and it's easy. So that's awesome.
I'm back now.
Back.
Alright, so I'm glad you fixed Discord. I was so confused because I was seeing on your...
Yeah, I was just talking, like I was just talking away, and then like I thought you were just gone somewhere, and then I see like your mouth moving, and I'm like, uh-oh, and then I see a notification on Discord. I was like, oh no, this is bad.
Yeah, because I was gonna step away to like take care of like find the charger for my phone and stuff, and I was like, hey Jett, I need you to entertain chat, and I was like, Jett, hello. Hey, thank you, Toby. I'm glad, but I'm glad.
Okay, so what I found is that we need to go to a different area to find the Scorpion.
Which way?
Which I know. We go. Let's come outside. Come down. And I'll walk you over. We can like hold hands, and so you don't get lost. Ba-bum.
Okay.
Badoo.
Area? I don't think so. There's so
We go
many.
even further down. On my screen, you just like tackled like in Oddish. It was really funny. Just phase right through it. You're like, nah. Boom. Literally just followed this path down.
I can't follow direction.
Just follow the path. Like if I tell you follow the path and you get lost, uh-oh. Hello, sir. Oh, this guy will heal your Pokemon.
Yeah, that's nice.
Let's go.
Oh wait, Toby, you said by the way. Wait, by the way, is it this one?
One more.
Oh, fuck.
Dinosaur says fuck.
I cursed so much. I don't know if you saw the clip in my server. I have this Japanese viewer, Ziva, who's like really, really cool. But they were watching my learning Japanese stream.
Wait for Lily.
And and I said fuck that because I think I was referring to kanji. And they're like, wow, I just learned a new English phrase. And I was with Professor Hardgrind, who was streaming with me. So he was like, okay, so fuck is the most versatile word in the English language.
It really is.
We had like a 20-minute conversation about the different ways to use fuck.
Yeah, it's pretty up there.
Okay. I need to heal my Pokemon. Oh, you got a shiny?
Chat. I think my email and like my new emails are done.
Oh. Nice.
Oh. I think Alfie's sending them right now. Oh my god, they look so good. This is so exciting. Hey yo.
Oh, wait, sorry, I have to catch a Lickitung.
Go for it.
I don't think I have one yet.
I want to look at the sip. I made a sip emote. Guys, okay, I'm gonna hold on. I'm downloading Jett Sip right now and adding it.
It might hopefully it approves immediately. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I hope. Let's see. So if we go to view awards emotes, I'm adding it right now because y'all deserve Jett Sip right now.
Okay. By the way, from Toby, it was for you. Gotta lick a tongue.
Jett Altair Sip. Come on. Oh, looks so good. Upload. There we go. This one, go into tier 1. Okay. We should have Jett Sip now.
Nice.
If y'all refresh, you should see Jett Sip.
Filing.
Which is awesome.
Filling out some box.
Oh.
I guess I'm going ahead of you now.
Oh, so I'm not paying attention. Yeah, you just follow the path, but go down.
Oh, so like the one.
I'll go to the left. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. The box that is below you.
Okay, that makes sense.
Channel. There it is. Oh, there he is.
Wait, this one.
He's
looks...
sipping juice.
This looks more like a desert than the other one, but okay.
But this is the canyon one. This one
Hmm.
has the poison types.
Okay, and I can get a Rhyhorn too.
Yeah.
This one
It's not there. It makes it on mobile. Yeah, if I would have updated on mobile right away, which is cringe. But look at that sippy mo. It's so good. It's so cute. I know. Just like me. Naga!
Ooh, Naga? Naga rating or
Hi,
something?
Naga! How are you? Cute avatar A. Have you like not seen my Pokemon one? You are cute. We've established this. No, I know. Still. Naga's just chilling. That's awesome. Oh.
Don't poison me, please.
Naga says hi.
Rude. Hi, Naga. What do you mean you avoided the attack? Rude.
Just dodge for it. My Slugma is evolving.
Slugma. I'm not gonna say.
Do it. Do it. You won't.
No, I'm not gonna.
Do it.
Slugma
Slugma
balls!
nut. Got him. I got my cargo.
Ms. Miscellaneous, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Get followed,
Pluto.
nerd.
Sure. I love how all my viewers just go and follow you. It's awesome.
It's really nice, yeah. I think most of my viewers are used to me streaming at like 2 p.m. They're all like...
I never stream at this time. This is like a complete flip for me. Literally 12 hours.
Oh my god, Quern's awake. Wow.
Hi, Quan. Good morning.
Oh wait, scorpion Pokemon. It lives in the arid lands. It buries itself in sand and lies in wait for unsuspecting prey.
Me.
No nickname. Only box.
Only by.
No nickname, only box. Oh wait, the Rhyhorn's gone. God damn it. Rude.
Rip. Yeah. I just turn off the nickname thing and options, so it just goes straight to a box.
Well, I'm naming some of my Pokemon.
That's fine. I feel like if I want to name it, I can just go to the name rater in Jubilife.
Been awake for like an hour with the usual wake delays. Okay. Can't believe I wasn't following you before. Yeah. It's okay. You're following me now. That's all that matters.
True.
Wait, where'd the Rhyhorn? It went bye-bye. Oh, there it is.
You have a right Dawn.
Rhyhorn. Isn't this Rhyhorn?
Oh,
Is it right on the bigger one?
Oh no, you're right. No, you know what? I saw a Rhydon in mine.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I got confused.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? Oh yeah.
I'm gonna see if this makes it faint. I hope not. Okay. Good.
Spoilers.
What?
Oh.
Ha 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 ha. How dare you hurt my Infernape? That's so rude.
Infernape.
I'm gonna use Flame Whip.
Bum, bum, bum.
Ooh, burned too. Oh don't use Rock Blast. Come on. Come on. This
You
is a
said the
little
word.
much. Think next turn, so I can.
What is this? Oh, it's an orb.
Hey, you. Wait, I see that squiggly line spine looking like from. Oh, okay. I mean, I actually had pretty good posture. But
I
okay.
don't. I'm like leaning back all the way in my chair with my feet on my bed. Like it was bad.
My posture was actually pretty good, but thank you.
Yeah. Dude, I'm so sad that once I get my new model, I can't like slouch around anymore.
Yeah, I know, that's how I felt. God damn it, Jett.
Because of face tracking.
Oh, I caught it. Oh my god, this has been such a successful stream so far.
Yeah.
Wait, BG has honey again? Let the dino go. Yeah, I know. Milk. You guys really like
God.
that one, huh?
I really hate it. I think it's
What are your feelings on the Valley Girl redeem?
the what? The Zaha now?
So there's a Valley Girl redeem.
Where is it? I don't see a Valley Girl accent for 1,000. I
People
don't know if
hate
I don't know if I want to redeem
People-
that and
it's
figure
like,
it out.
Oh wait, another milk. Milk! Yeah, I added it because some people wanted it, and like half of my chat muted the stream.
Oh, it's so funny. Oh my
It's
gosh.
like people were asking me for it. Come on. Ooh, finally, like a proper ground type Pokemon. Now
Numble?
I can change the name on my ground type. Let's Jett. So like.
Oh, I can't mute the stream now.
5 minutes. Okay, so like this is the Valley Girl accent. It's the only accent I can actually do. Like. Cause like I've tried a British accent before, and I'm like not really good at it. So like
It like wasn't good. That's so sad. Oh my god. The other day I went to Starbucks and I get my typical order, right? But the bartender didn't put soy milk in my Americano Frappuccino latte, and I was like, what the fuck? And I was so mad, and I threw it at him, and I made him get it a new one. Haha, go bossing.
I'm not gonna lie, I did not expect that one. Who is Seamus? Who is like this person? Why is this like random person in the underground? Like what? Yeah, I don't know. There's like 2 of them now. Well, you kind of asked for this, Toby. So like, I don't know what you're expecting, considering you said you muted, like last time. So
Imagine like redeeming something only to mute it.
Yeah, right.
What? Discord ping.
Wow, your chat like really likes a Discord ping.
Dude, it is probably I think my most used redeem is Discord ping.
Couldn't be you. You like sure about that? Oh my god, I'm like so good at the underground digging up stuff. Like totally.
Yeah, I really like the dragonfly fly redeem, because the dragonfly flies across my screen and it's like a different color too. It's really cool.
I really have
Can
to,
you
like,
get
check
all
it
the
out.
colors?
Can you get all the colors? I am a completionist. Man, listen to that dino. It's so quirky and weird, right? I'm not like other girls.
I'm not like other girls.
I actually really hate it when girls say that.
Because it kind of just reinforces the fact that like they are just as basic as everyone else.
Well, not all. Ooh, I got like a Tangergroot statue, but it's like, it's because it's pitting girls against each other for no reason. It's okay to be feminine. There's like nothing wrong with being feminine.
True, I'm feminine.
And typically girls who are like, I'm not like other girls, isolate themselves from other girls, and then they don't make lasting relationships with other women, which can actually be pretty detrimental socially. Milk.
Point the gun, say ara. Should I be?
Oh, well, if someone does the Ara redeem on, like, my channel, we can totally do it.
Cool. If you redeem it right now, do you have to do an ara in a Valley Girl accent? That'd be so funny.
Valley Girl ara. I can, like, do that for free if you want. Valley Girl milk? I guess milk. Is that satisfactory for you? Ara. Alright, so I'm gonna redeem the Ada on my channel, so you, like, have to do it too.
Okay.
Is this something else? Are you having, like, a good time?
It is something else. Ada.
Nice.
There you go.
We got a Jett Ada. Oh, Jett, you actually have to do the Ada in a Valley Girl accent too.
Oh my god, okay. Ada.
That was, like, so good. Oh my god.
I'm not like other Ada girls, you know?
Oh my god, you're, like, so funny, Jett.
Oh my god, that's the thing. You're so silly. You're so quirky.
We only have, like, 1 minute left of the Valley Girl accent redeem. Are you guys gonna, like, miss it? And it's gone. Ada girls?
Pluto says, can you add an hour redeem? Absolutely not. Because I do it so well, and I don't want to, like, ruin it by saying it all the time.
Yeah, that's
so,
fair.
But if I'm on other people's channel and it gets, like, like, if other people have, like, voice redeems that I'm, like, comfortable doing it, I'll do it. I don't really care.
That makes a lot of sense.
As your #1 simp, I'm begging you. I'll consider it. Okay? If I do make one, it's gonna be expensive. I'll make it like 5K or something.
Okay, it's done. We're free from that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. If we go up, there's a fire one. If you want to look at fire types.
Yeah, I was looking at it there. I think.
Even though there's no good fire types, you'll ever get. You can get Ponyta and like Houndoom, I guess.
But I can get Magby. So wait, let's.
That's good for Flame Body.
Yeah. I'm gonna dig here though. First.
I'll dig with you.
Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Ooh, a fairy type. You just really go for it, huh?
I really do. I've figured out a strategy that works really well.
Wait, there's a cutesy voice. I need more Jorts. Yeah, you have to watch me more. There's a cutesy voice redeem.
Oh. What does cutesy voice redeem do?
I talk in feminine cutesy voice. Like, it's kind of self-explanatory.
Cringe?
You're so close.
How much is it? Someone's like, oh, 2K? That's so expensive.
I know.
I say, sitting here at 10,000 points.
Wait, do we not? Oh, I didn't make the, we had a new, channel point community challenge thing, but I guess I didn't start it yet. I made it.
Hilarious.
I didn't start it.
Yeah, I've never actually done a channel point, challenge.
No, it doesn't change at all. Aw. Ooh. Yeah, I do it for, like, the nostalgic games. We did Putt Putt and we did Pajama Sam.
Oh, which Putt-Putt and which Pajama Sam?
We did, all of the Putt-Putts that weren't broken. Because Steam sometimes breaks them. And we're gonna do the
Putt-Putt Joins the Circus?
Yes, we played that. That was the last one we played, I think. One. I don't like you or anything, you're pretty close. What if you say that in a cutesy voice? I already say that one in a cutesy voice. So that you don't need to redeem that extra. You don't need I already say that in a cutesy voice.
Pluto, yes. If you redeem the hour on Lily's channel, then I will do it. I will do it here.
Yeah.
That is how this works. Let's see what fire types I can find. I can find the starters in here, I guess.
Yeah, I want to see if I can get a
I
Magby.
get much more out of the fire. Oh, a Houndoom. Hello.
Ah! Oh. But what about a Valley Girl cutesy voice? Valley cutesy, I don't like you or anything. I don't think I can do that. Sorry.
Sorry.
Ara ara.
Oh, Doro. There you go.
Yay! Now Jett has to do it.
Ara ara. There you go.
I'm doing
Are you
okay.
satisfied?
What time is it? Oh, we got like 20 minutes left and then I have to eat lunch and you should probably go to sleep.
I have to sleep.
Yeah.
It is 12:40 in the AM.
You know what? We could stop it at any time before then if you want to sleep.
No, it's fine. I was kind of banking on 1 AM being my stopping point anyway.
Wait. Oh, Magby.
Every time Jett says "our,"
yeah.
pretty gas. That's so funny.
Mm.
Ah.
How am I gonna do this? I think Flame
Magby.
will.
I like how Magby has like a choker. It's cute.
It's a collar. Come on.
I mean, whatever you're into, I guess.
Thank you, Dada. Whatever I'm into? Oh, come come on.
I'm sorry. Your hours are so good. Well, thank you. I literally have never done RR until like I started. But I also watch like a lot of. I also watch like a lot of anime, so I kind of just know like I hear it a lot, so I kind of just like understand what's expected.
Okay, no, that's fair. I didn't know what it was before streaming. I still don't know what the context behind it is, but I know what the sound clip is.
Mm-hmm. I remember like I was in like a VC or doing a collab with but we were playing like Gartic Phone or something, and someone redeemed our so like everyone did it, and then like this one guy was just Australian, so when it was his turn, he just went our mate. it was
I can imagine that was really good.
It was like the last one in the line. I'm like, oh, that was so funny. Just our mate seals the deal.
Oh wait, I got a Magby with the evolutionary. It was holding its evolutionary item. Solid.
Pogger.
And back.
Can I surf on lava? No. Sad.
Wow. You cheated out of
I did an hour from my friends once. They were freaking the fuck out. It wasn't even that good, but they said they'd pay for my voice. Wow, so talented.
I have a Barboach or a Krogum.
A Torkoal? I feel like I have a Torkoal already. I guess we'll find out.
Barboach. Oh, I don't have
Torkoal.
a Barboach yet. Okay, we gotta go to with the marsh biome. I don't know what that is.
Okay. I don't know where Marsh is. Let's go figure it out.
Is there any
I do need a Torkoal. I'm gonna DM it to you as soon as I have it. Okay. DM me your RR. No!
I can't talk to you while you're in a bath.
No.
No.
What do you mean? Like, in IRL?
No, I meant like in the game.
Oh.
God, I need to finish this tea before noon, or else I won't sleep.
It gets
tonight.
cold.
It's ice tea.
Oh.
That's already cold, in fact. Channel point status 1930. Points needed 70. Yeah, unfortunate.
Bukiki died, so I'm gonna run. Alright. Marsh.
But now I'm in a battle.
We are far from Marsh.
That's okay. We got 15 minutes.
Yeah, we have to go to the top right corner, top left corner.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit far. No. Whee!
I mean, we also don't have to. We can just dig. Oh wait, but we do need to trade. I need a cran and dose.
Okay, yeah. Let's just head up and trade. Let's do that. Go up.
Yes.
Wah.
It did. No.
Welcome to the Pokemon Center. Bum bum ba da bum.
I'm gonna do it the old-fashioned way. I'm not gonna press.
You already went the wrong way.
Okay. Oh, this is
It's
local.
downstairs.
It's
Yeah.
local. Now.
Fool.
Like a department store.
Failstone City be like.
I would like to do it with my link code. It isn't your actual social security number, right?
No comment.
Imagine having 6969 your social security number. That'd be funny.
That'd be crazy. Mine does. Or not. I don't know.
Okay,
Are you here or no? Oh, I see you. Call trade. Alright, what are you giving me?
A shield on?
Okay, what am I giving you?
Window?
I do have a Granados. That's my recent Granados, right? Yeah, that's fine. Not like it matters.
I forgot where I put mine. Wait. Okay.
Oh, you have a Mew also.
Yeah.
I don't have a Mew. I don't think I have my copy of Let's Go with me.
Okay.
I think it's in the US.
Maybe I shouldn't have gotten greedy with the autos. Yeah. Greed is bad. Greed is bad. It's a sin. It doesn't stop me though. Give me all your money. Jett, I'm
Give me
robbing
all
you.
of your money.
Okay. We're ending soon. I don't know why you would add the bow to the model.
Another bow. A Sheldon
Ah.
head bow.
Yeah. It's the headbutt Pokemon. Butt. He was resurrected from an iron ball like fossil. It downs prey with its headbutts. Ooh, I kind of wait, I kind of want it in my party though. No,
The
it's
headbutt
fine.
Pokemon.
But oh wait, too much autos on no, but just Jett do. Really laughing at butt jokes? Yeah. Yeah.
She's laughing at butt jokes. I am not. Let's be very, very clear here. Only one of us is laughing.
Yeah, I think we're quitting the trade, right? That's all we need. Hey, bye bye, sheesh. All jokes. Yeah.
The trade. Oh no.
Yeah, I know.
Alrighty.
I think that's all. That's all for today. If y'all
All for today.
haven't checked out Jett, I'm gonna put the link in the chat. There you go. Go bother Jett. Although I think most of you came from his channel anyway. But yeah, go bother him.
If you haven't checked out Pyro Lily yet, go bother her.
Yeah. I think I heard Jett laugh after saying "but" at least thrice. Ah, okay.
I don't know what you're talking about. You ain't got proof. But yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, it was. We should do it sometime again after I beat the Elite Four, and then maybe we can like battle or something.
That'd be so fun.
I'm really bad at battling though.
So am I. I don't even know my types. So like.
Okay, that's it. I think that's the only thing I have on you. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, for everyone here in both channels, it's a shameless plug.
Oh, are you gonna
Did
do
you guys
your
know that I'm
debut?
debuting
Yeah,
soon? Oh my
yeah.
god, that's crazy!
Fun fact: Jett is going. Well, after the debut, Jett's gonna be my model brother, and then we're gonna have to do a collab with Yuma.
Yes. I have a new model. It's gonna be great.
Maybe we could do Pokemon Unite.
Hmm?
Maybe we should do Pokemon Unite.
I've never played Unite.
I've only played it really once. I'm not good, but Yuma loves it, so.
Oh, maybe I'll give it a shot for Yuma. Yeah, my new model is so cute. You guys are gonna like go crazy. It's amazing. It's awesome. I love it, and you'll love it too. Because I can move back and forth. I can wiggle.
Right?
I did. I think I did. I'm pretty sure you were the first one I showed it to.
Aww. Yeah, Jett also helped me out. Yeah, you only showed me the face though. But Jett helped me out, set this model up, and test it out in VC face. So.
So exciting.
Jett is Lily Soar's brother. Yeah. Jett Soar is Lily Soar's brother. You're correct.
Jett Soar.
Yeah, you are ancient. After all.
That's me. Haha.
Oh, my bow like jiggle.
Does it jiggle? Oh, it does jiggle. That's so funny. I love that.
It's 2D on a 3D model. It's great. The Santa hat's even funnier.
Oh, yeah. I haven't messed around with the props yet that much.
Okay, wait. I can show you y'all the Santa hat, which it's not a redeem for a reason.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's awesome, amazing, beautiful.
Okay, alright. Do we have any sign-offs? Sign-offs?
Sign-offs.
Oh, who are we rating?
That's a good question. Who's streaming? Pyro Lily streaming. That's pretty cool.
I have one person, the Royal Knight, who is streaming, but he's streaming
I have
some...
3 people. We have Micro Ice, we have Cake, and Fun.
Oh, Micro Ice is streaming?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Streaming
wow.
Fallon.
Wait. In my chat, put Micro Ice's... Wait, I could probably... I didn't know Micro streamed.
Sometimes.
Let's go raid Micro. Micro's...
Let's go raid Micro.
Okay, wait. I need the name. Okay. Alright, guys. Bye. No raid... Oh, actually, let's do a raid message. Why not?
Let's do it, yeah.
If you don't have my emote for raid, you can unlock it fairly cheaply. The raid message.
All right, and
we'll
go with our typical Dragonfly raid.
I'm gonna end now. So bye. Say bye, Jett.
Bye. Go raid Micro Ice.